Welcome to the Heartland Post candidate interview. I'm Justin Phillips, and joining me today is someone who I feel like I know very well for someone who I actually haven't met, and that's Katie Baney. She's running for the Wisconsin 1st Senate District. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Justin, thanks so much for having me on.
Great. So Katie is running to succeed Andre Jacques and has positioned herself as a working mom and conservative activist focused on Wisconsin families first. She has more than 15 years experience in conservative politics and policy. The past 5 years, she's served as managing director of government affairs at Delta Defense, being the company behind the United States Concealed Carry Association. So she's a big Second Amendment rights activist, and we couldn't be more excited to have her on the show. Katie, tell us, how's the campaign going so far?
Oh, Justin, thanks so much for having me on. It has been a whirlwind. So we announced it's not even been a month, if you can believe it. So we are just full on in the campaign, and it's been incredible. The reception has been great. A lot of folks just encouraging us. I've gotten a lot of thank you so much for running, for doing this, for considering to do it, to wanting to serve the people of my community, where I live, where I grew up, where I'm raising my family. It's just a really special honor and blessing to even run and to be considered. When Andre announced that he was retiring, I started getting a lot of calls from folks in the community, friends and business leaders, and folks saying, hey, would you consider doing this? Would you consider running for the state Senate seat? And my husband and I prayed on it, and we really had to consider it because it's a sacrifice. It requires a lot from not only me, but of course, my family and my husband. And we have two little kids. And so it really took some praying. And ultimately, we felt like God was nudging me and leading me down this path to do this. And so I threw my hat in the ring, and it's just been great. The reception has been so wonderful. I have met a ton of amazing, interesting, fun people across northeastern Wisconsin. And I just feel really fortunate to be doing this. And again, just excited for the opportunity ultimately to serve the people in my home.
It's great. Do you have any highlights from the campaign so far?
So we are, it's obviously June Dairy Month, and so breakfasts on the farm are really big up in northeastern Wisconsin. I grew up going to breakfast on the farm. I think it's something really unique that we do in Wisconsin, that we bring 5,000, 6,000 of our neighbors and friends all to have breakfast on a local farm. And so that has been an incredible. I love being able to go out and do that. I was at the Brown County breakfast on the farm just a couple weeks ago. I was at the Manitowoc breakfast on the farm this past weekend, serving folks. I checked in over 1,100 families and
Wow.
people in Manitowoc. So it was pretty incredible. They're a well-oiled machine. It was just an awesome event. And so that's been really, really fun. I love again, I grew up going to those. Last year, we took my daughter. Last June, I was pregnant and I had my daughter. We took her to the breakfast on the farm. So we're just reflecting a year later. Here we are. I'm a candidate, and it's just been a blast.
Wow. So you have a couple of young kids. I know mine are maybe just a little bit older than yours now, but that's still, it's wonderful. And they got to
It
love
is. It's the
mom running.
greatest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's no, it's the greatest joy of my life to be a mom, and my kids are 1 and 2.5. And
Oh,
God
wow.
willing, we'll have a couple more. And it's just the greatest blessing and joy of my life. We are really fortunate, Justin, because we have all four grandparents within a
Hmm.
mile radius of our house.
Oh, it's tremendous.
So that's the only parenting kind of hack I have is I recommend living right next to your parents and your in-laws and having just an incredible family and community support to help with your kids. Because that's why I'm able to do this is their support and their help with my kiddos, and that's just an incredible blessing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So not quite old enough to know what mom is doing yet. Like they're not full, but they are going to come do parades with you and all that.
Yes, absolutely. We did a parade up in Door County a few weeks ago, and they rode in the parade. It, I think, had a blast. Of course, not wholly sure what's going on, but they love it. It's never a good time. It's never an easy time to run for office, and we weighed this out. I think the benefit for us now, and if you have kids, as any parents do, that right now we completely control our kids' schedules. And they're little, so they don't have, the soccer and the baseball and the dance and all the other things going on. And so they just get to come along with us. So they're with me door knocking across northeastern Wisconsin, right? It's a beautiful day outside. We're just going for walks. They're in the stroller. We're talking to folks and they're love it. We're outside, we're having a good time. Same thing with the parade. We brought them to Brown County breakfast on the farm. So they're just along for the ride with us.
That's amazing, and what a way to introduce your family to the community, but also for them to experience northeastern Wisconsin, which has got to be beautiful this time of year.
There is nothing better than northeastern Wisconsin in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up, I grew up here, so we grew up going to the beach in Two Rivers. We grew up going up to Door County and camping in Peninsula State Park. So this is the best place to be for the summer.
It's fantastic. And so, I want to talk a little bit about your background, which I think is just super unique. So, you served as the managing director of government affairs for Delta Defense. Can you talk a little bit about what you did there, what they do, and all that?
Yeah, so my day job is with Delta Defense. Delta is the service provider for the United States Concealed Carry Association. We are one of the largest firearm training and education providers in the country. We have just shy of 900,000 responsibly armed Americans as members of the USCCA. And really, these are responsible American gun owners who are committed to firearm training and education. And as a benefit, they get self-defense liability insurance. And those are all really critical components of being a responsible gun owner right now. And so my day job there is doing all their government and regulatory affairs. And it's an incredible company. I mean, it was co-founded by Tim and Tani Schmidt from their kitchen table in West Bend, Wisconsin. It has grown to, again, almost 900,000 USCCA members. We have over 600 employees nationwide. It is still a privately owned company based in West Bend. It's just an incredible American dream story, right, of capitalism and hard work. And they are hugely supportive of me, and I'm so grateful to Tim and Tani and the leadership at Delta for supporting me in running and for doing this, and just modeling ultimately what I've preached for years, which is that political participation is key in order for us to protect this incredible republic. I mean, we are in the 250th year of America, and this incredible experiment only continues to work if people are willing to stand up and be engaged in the process. And whether that's voting, whether that's engaging online, writing, whether it's running for office, it's all part of the critical political engagement we need in order to sustain and grow American democracy and our republic. And I think that's another really cool element about this, Justin, is just being able to run for office in the year that America turns 250. I mean, I'm wearing like my American flag stuff every
Mm-hmm.
day. I feel like we all should just be, so proud and feel so blessed and fortunate to live in the greatest country on the planet.
I couldn't agree more, and I am all in for the America 250. I have a couple columns coming up in the Heartland Post about that. But no, that's an awesome experience that you had professionally to again set you up to be an opportunity to run for office. But before that, you worked for Ron Johnson and worked in DC or in the worked for Republicans in DC.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
was in DC for a number of years. I worked on Capitol Hill. I worked in both the House and the Senate. I worked for a handful of different people, Ron Johnson, Paul Ryan, and a gentleman named Mike Rogers, who was chairman
Mhm.
of Homeland Security at the time, and now he's chairman of Armed Services. And I had just an incredible experience in DC in my 20s. Again, I got to work in the Senate and the House. I met my husband in DC, and so my husband Drew and I were both working for Senator Johnson on the Committee for Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs when we met. And so that's probably, the best thing that came from DC was meeting my husband. And it was just, I felt so fortunate to be able to do that in my 20s because you are exposed and just learn an incredible amount and get to see really from a bird's eye view the whole federal legislative process, right? And it's an incredible for someone who's sort of always been a political junkie like me. It was an extraordinary experience, and I feel very fortunate to have had it. But of course, like anything, we were in DC, my husband and I, and COVID hit. And I think with many people, COVID really turned our lives upside down. And I'll never forget walking our dog in DC and getting stopped by police officers and being asked to put a mask on.
Outdoor.
And we
You
were
were outdoor.
outside.
Oh gosh.
We were walking our dogs. There was no one around.
Hmm.
And I just remember feeling so radicalized by COVID and by the government health mandates and by living that way in DC that we just, there's no way. We thought there's no way we can continue living here. There's no way we can raise our kids here. We wanted to, start a family and have children. There was just no way it was going to happen. And so we moved to Wisconsin. About 5 years ago, we moved back to De Pere, which is where I grew up and where my parents still live. My parents still live in the house I grew up in here. And we just knew we wanted to live here and raise our family here. I think northeastern Wisconsin is one of the best places to live and to raise a family. I feel pretty good about my persuasion skills because my husband is a fifth generation Texan,
Oh
and
wow.
I got him to move to Wisconsin, but he loves it. And shortly thereafter, his parents followed us. They sold their ranch in
Wow.
Texas and moved up here, and so we are all now again within kind of a mile radius of each other. My parents, his parents, and it's just it's an extraordinary place to live, and I just feel very grateful to be here.
Well, that's fantastic. No, I know one of the biggest decisions, like once you get married, is my wife and I lived in Milwaukee, and it's similar in a sense that like you realize this probably isn't the place where you can raise a kid. You don't want them to go biking in the condo or anything. You gotta get them some fresh air and some country, and it's really impressive if you could persuade a fifth generation Texan to move to Wisconsin. You could probably persuade a lot of people on doors.
Yeah, I feel
That's
I feel pretty good about it, Justin. I'll tell you that. And he loves, I mean, he's a loves the snow, loves
mhm.
skiing. He's a hockey guy, so he loves pond hockey. That was one of his favorite things coming to Wisconsin was that
Nice.
all the parks flood their local rinks and that he can go to the pond or go to the local rink at the park and get to skate and meet some other guys. So he's loving it. And this is how I wanted to raise my kids. I mean, it's just I think it's a unique neighborly kind community, and it's just a great place to live.
Yeah, when you mentioned Texas, immediately thought barbecue and Terry Black's, and I hope he finds some good places for barbecue up where he can do it himself up in northeastern Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, we have a smoker. His dad brought, they have multiple smokers at my in-laws' house. It's a big thing. We smoke brisket and we still get to have a little taste of Texas up here.
There you go. There you go. Well, let's shift a little bit on to some policy stuff. So you're running as a Wisconsin Families First. It seems to be your tagline. So tell us a little bit more about that and what you hope to accomplish in Madison.
Yeah. Ultimately, I'm running because I felt like God called me to do this and because I think the most competent, capable person to run and represent the people of my community. And everything that I do, all the decisions I make and how I operate ultimately is guided by my faith and guided by what's best for Northeastern Wisconsin's families. And when I'm at the doors and when I'm talking with folks in Northeastern Wisconsin, people are really concerned about, I'd say the number one issue is affordability. I hear that constantly, whether we're talking about property taxes, whether we're talking about utility bills, whether we're talking about hospital bills, it's becoming really expensive to raise a family and to live here. And that's a major concern to me. And I think we should be really clear about what government can do and can solve and what it can't. So I think, for example, just take the property tax issue. I think day one, we need to repeal the 400-year property tax increase immediately. I know our property taxes, I think they went up, I think it's 28% year over year. Um, it's crazy and it's becoming unaffordable for people to live here, and that's unacceptable, right? I think there's some areas that we can look at in terms of the PSC Commission and utility rates, and I think we need to look at what opportunities exist on hospital pricing and billing transparency, because I've heard a lot about medical bills and families, parents just being really concerned. I had an ER visit with my 1 year old, and our bill is over $4,000.
Mhm.
I mean, and that's extremely difficult for people to deal with. And so ultimately, I'm running because I want this place, I want Northeastern Wisconsin to be one of the best places to live and to raise a family. And every decision I make is going to come from the vein of what's best for the people I represent, what's best for Wisconsin families. And I think if you're operating from that position, we're going to be able to accomplish a lot in Madison.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think many years ago we were reliably told that the Affordable Care Act is going to make healthcare more affordable, and it's done virtually the exact opposite. And I can empathize that. Yeah, you take your kid to the emergency room for some stitches or something like that, and all of a sudden you're staring these big bills down, and there isn't the price transparency and those sort of things. So I think that's a great campaign platform to run on.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I'm concerned about a lot of things, though, too, right? I hear
Mhm.
concerns about medical freedom, access to quality food. I hear major concerns about our education system. We are spending record money, yet the accountability isn't there, the outcomes aren't there. It's not like all of a sudden our children are critically thinking and reading and writing at higher levels. That's not happening. And so we need a level of oversight and accountability. I would love to see a full audit of DPI. I'd like to understand where all of our taxpayer dollars are going. And that's not a radical idea. I mean, that should be a routine part of the legislative process of what's happening in Madison. And it's not right now. And
Mhm.
so there are a lot of issues and concerns that I want to talk about and demonstrate leadership on and ultimately go to Madison to try to solve.
So, Katie, can you talk a little bit more about how being a mom is going to influence your decision making in Madison, the policies you want to pursue, and the legislation you want to author?
Yeah. Justin, I think I'm the only mom in the race. And I think it's a really critical perspective to bring to Madison. And one of the major legislative issues I want to see, I want to sponsor and pass a Parents' Bill of Rights. I want to have a conversation and just regain that sovereignty of parents' decision making and authority over their children, especially as it relates to school. And when we consider what age appropriate content is, and when we consider, the medical and health decisions that are being made in school, I want to see a Parents' Bill of Rights in Wisconsin just to reassert that control and make very clear that government is not raising our children. Parents are. I refuse to co-parent with the government. I refuse to co-parent with Madison bureaucrats. And I think we need to put that power back into the hands of parents in Wisconsin.
No, love that. As a dad, I have three girls that are going to be kindergarten, second, and fourth grade, and can definitely relate to wanting to make sure that I am the one, or my wife and I are the ones making the best decisions for them, and it's not the government intervention.
Yep,
So
exactly. How old are your kids?
So I have a one that's she's going to be 9, turns 9 in a couple of weeks, and then a 7-year-old and a 4.5-year-old. So we are in
Okay.
the throes of the dance lessons and piano lessons and swim lessons and t-ball and sports, and
Yeah.
we're getting into it, and it's been a joy to kind of watch them grow up.
Yeah, that's great.
So, Katie, we do ask 3 questions of all of the candidates that come onto this show. So, the first one is if you could pick an iconic Wisconsin spot, whether supper club, brewery, or Packers tailgate to hold a rally at, what would it be? What would it look like? What do you want to talk to voters about? What do you want to serve?
Okay, so Friday night fish fry,
Mm-hmm.
no doubt. This is one of my husband's favorite things about Wisconsin is just the supper club culture and Friday night fish fry. And so we have a running list of it's one of our favorite hobbies to go and try all the various supper clubs in the area, figure out the best Friday night fish fry. So I would love to host a Friday night fish fry, of course, with brandy old fashioned sweet. Although sometimes I like pressed if I need a little bit of
Okay.
a little bit less sugar.
Sure.
Um, and I think that's just the most authentic, genuine Wisconsin tradition is a fish fry with a brandy old fashioned. And I think we would talk about all the issues going on in the campaign, affordability, education. Um, I love to talk about the Second Amendment, of course, and I hear about that at doors and just the fundamental right to self-defense. But I'd want to talk about all the issues, and I want to hear what's on people's minds. What are they concerned about? What keeps them up at night? And the best way to do that, of course, is over an old fashioned.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Sweet, you said, or press. Those are the good ways
I
to.
like it sweet.
Yeah,
Those are
those are the
my
best way.
two favorite. Yep,
Which with cherries and an orange.
absolutely. My
There you
dad is
go.
weird and does Brussels sprouts. I
Really?
can't do the Brussels sprouts.
I lose
Olive and Brussels sprouts.
I lose my cherries to the girls, so I don't get too many. And the one time it came with olives, and they were very disappointed that they didn't get to have those.
Yeah.
Growing up, you grew up in Wisconsin. So what's one lesson you've learned from the state, whether it's a hunting trip or a festival or something that really kind of shaped your conservative approach to leadership in life?
I would say we just take care of each other. Wisconsinites take care of each other. One of my favorite things growing up was after a major snowstorm, you would come out in the morning and you would see everyone out with their snow blowers, with their shovels, and it's almost like a community event where everyone's shoveling out their sidewalks and their driveways, checking on each other, checking on elderly neighbors, doing their sidewalk. Um, I think Wisconsinites are just neighborly. We really care about each other. And that is, whether it's in the winter shoveling out after a snowstorm or all the church picnics that we have, people here are kind, they're neighborly, I think, and they show up for each other. They're just genuine good human beings, which I think was one of the major reasons my parents decided to move here. I mean, my dad retired out of Pearl Harbor, Hawaii,
Oh wow,
and the military, when you retire, will relocate you to anywhere in the country. And my parents chose Green Bay, Wisconsin. And my dad was from the UP, so of course he was familiar with Green Bay. He had a really great best friend from the Navy who lived here. And they came here and they visited, and I think they just were struck by how kind everyone was and just authentic, genuine, warm, neighborly people. And they knew they wanted to raise their kids here.
that's awesome. That's a great story, and how you came to Wisconsin. So final question:
Yeah.
you get to wave a magic wand on day one, and whether it's a policy you want to implement or roll back, I guess you could say, what's the day one legislation you want to enact in the state?
I only get to pick one.
You can make it a very big one, but yes, one.
Okay, so I mean, I have to go with the 400-year property tax increase. I think that's just an abomination on the state and on the taxpayers of the state. I think it's making it unaffordable for people to buy homes, stay in their homes, and I think it has to be priority day one.
Awesome. Awesome. I agree. And now, Katie, we do have one final question. Where can folks go to learn more about you? Website, socials? Give us all of it.
Yeah, please check us out, katieforwisconsin.com. You can find us on Facebook as well, Katie Baney. Please, check us out, like my Facebook, reach out to us if you have any questions, concerns, comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Katie Baney, it has been a pleasure. Wishing you best on the campaign trail. Thanks for taking some time today, and we look forward to seeing what's next for you.
Thanks so much for having me, Justin. Take care.
Thank you.